So what is it that the valley is feeling? What is it that the Jammu region is feeling? Is there a division? We will keep an eye on all of that. But first, to understand what was the ground on which this legal challenge was mounted. Ananya Bhatnagar, you've sat through all these back and forth between the petitioners and the government side. Just help us understand, if in bullet points you can help us understand the top 5 arguments from the side of the petitioners on which they said that the government's decision was incorrect.
Definitely, Arunima, this was a very, very significant case and almost 16 days of marathon hearings. The petitioners constantly arguing that, 370 is a permanent provision of the Constitution of India, and the government of India has unconstitutionally brought an amendment to it. They have, overpowered the Constitution of India. They've tried to change the Constitution of India, and they had put forth various arguments. And in fact, another very big argument that the government, in fact, the petitioners had placed is that, the sovereignty of Jammu and Kashmir is lost. And and a very, very important part is that Jammu and Kashmir is not as same as the other states in the country, is because it had signed an instrument of accession and not a merger agreement when it had merged into the country. And that's exactly what the petitioner has been telling. The government had been constantly defending the same, saying that, the move that was made in 2019 was something to, rectify the mistakes that were done in the past by the past governments. And that's exactly why the central government brought in an amendment to, Article 370 and removed that special status. A big question that the Supreme Court would also be answering today, Arunima, is that in absence of a legislative assembly, which was, amended from a constituent assembly to a legislative assembly, whether the governor of the particular state can actually act as a legislative assembly when there is no kind and there is a president rule operating and there is no legislative assembly operating. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how things pan out. But one of the most crucial verdicts of the year coming in today, a 5-judges constitution bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, will be pronouncing this verdict at around 10:30. Arunima.
10:30, so we've already begun the countdown. Just in over 2 hours, we will know whether the decision taken by the government was correct or not. But Anusha, today is also a day when that all-important bill, the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Amendment and Jammu and Kashmir Reservation bills will be taken up in Rajya Sabha. And during the course of the argument, not just in this bill in Lok Sabha, but previously also, Home Minister Amit Shah and government functionaries have repeatedly said that 370 was not a permanent feature, it was temporary, it was meant as a temporary feature, and everything that the government has done is to carry forward what was constitutionally tenable. That was the sum total of the argument made here in the court as well?
Absolutely, I agree with that. And let me just break it down. I mean, back in August 5, 2019, when that order by the President was promulgated that introduced and changed the special status of Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370, behind that veil of Article 370 was the procedural clause of Article 367. And if one needs to understand what today the Supreme Court is going to decide, one needs to look at Article 367, which is the procedural clause. It is under this clause that various amendments have been made, and Article 370, quote unquote, over the years have been diluted by the subsequent central governments. Now, one of the key arguments to substantiate further what was made by Mr. Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General before the Supreme Court of India, is that if this government of the day, if the President and the Parliament wants to do away with the special status, which was temporary in nature, which has been the belief of the government, they must adopt the way of Article 367. Article 367 lays down a procedure as to the manner in which any changes can be made, the manner in which the so-called Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir operated, and how different laws from India could be adopted in the erstwhile territory of Jammu and Kashmir, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, when 367(4) was inserted into the constitution, the argument of the central government is that we have adopted a legal route, and even earlier, the term Sadre Riyasat was substituted by the term governor, and even then Article 367 was used. So this particular route of changing the constitution or changing this particular clause is something which is recognized. What is the key argument here? That the entire move of the government is unconstitutional in substance and in procedure. So other than the argument that Ananya made and you were talking about, that this was a temporary provision, procedurally, the government is saying we are sound. 367 is something that allows us that route, and 367 Part 4, when inserted into the constitution, was the right way for the government to move forward. They have precedent for that. Arunima.
Right. So whatever is being said legally, also we have heard the echoes of it politically speaking. एक देश में दो संविधान कैसे हो सकते हैं is what Home Minister Amit Shah said just last week when he was responding to questions on 370 in Lok Sabha. So you've heard the National Conference's reaction, you've heard the reaction from the Bharatiya Janata Party. How is the Congress weighing in on this judgment? Let's listen into their spokesperson.
फाइनली आज वो दिन आ चुका है। अब से कुछ समय के बाद ही सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो फाइनल वर्डिक्ट है आर्टिकल 370 पे वो आने वाला है। कांग्रेस पार्टी के चीफ स्पोक्सपर्सन रविंद्र शर्मा हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। अभी कुछ ही लम्हों के बाद, कुछ ही पलों के बाद ये फैसला आ जाएगा। कांग्रेस पार्टी को क्या उम्मीद है?
देखिए, हमको पूरी उम्मीद है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट बहुत ही अच्छा फैसला सुनाएगा और संविधान का, जनभावना का पालन भी होगा। जम्मू कश्मीर के बच्चे बच्चे की नजरें हमारी किस्मत का फैसला भी होने वाला है। हमारी एक बनी बनाई स्टेट 175 साल के बाद बगैर पूछे तोड़ फोड़ करके उसको डिवाइड कर दिया गया, 2 यूटी हो गए, डाउनग्रेड कर लिया। 5.5 साल से चुनाव नहीं होते। आर्टिकल 370 को टूटे हुए भी 4.5 साल हो गए और बीजेपी मीडिया में और अखबारों में सुनाती है कि बहुत अच्छा हाल है, और जहां डेमोक्रेसी नाम की चीज़ नहीं रही है। आर्टिकल 370 में कुछ चीज़ें जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को हकूक थे वो तो एकदम बगैर पूछे ख़त्म हो गई और रियासत का दर्जा भी गया। तो इसलिए लोग देख रहे हैं कि हम उच्चतम न्यायालय से हमको क्या मिलता है।
बहुत लंबी जो लड़ाई है, कानूनी जो लड़ाई है वो लड़ी गई, 16 दिन तक बहस भी चली, और अब आपको लगता है कि जो सुप्रीम फैसला आने वाला है वो सर्वमान्य सबको होगा?
देखिए, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ही आखिरी उम्मीद बच गई है इस देश के अंदर, और जुडिशरी का हमेशा सम्मान करते हैं लोग, खासकर इस पार्टी और संविधान का, और संविधान के तमाम इंस्टीट्यूशन का रिस्पेक्ट करती है और पूर्ण विश्वास रखती है जुडिशरी पे। हमारी जुडिशरी इंडिपेंडेंट है, ये हम विश्वास करते हैं कि वो संविधान के तहत बहुत लंबी बहस उन्होंने सुनी, सब पक्षों को सुना, सब पहलुओं को देखा, लेकिन बहुत से पहलू हैं जिनको देख करके हमें उम्मीद है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला आएगा।
अभी हालांकि कुछ ही लम्हों में जो फैसला है वो आने वाला है, लेकिन उससे पहले कांग्रेस पार्टी को उम्मीदें हैं, क्योंकि कहना है कि संविधान के हिसाब से जो सही लगेगा सुप्रीम कोर्ट को वो किया जाएगा और वो सर्वमान्य भी होगा सबको। कैमरामैन नारायण दत्त के साथ राजेंद्र, न्यूज़ 18 जम्मू।